Hey guys, it's Gsluke, back again with another PGA DFS ownership reaction video. We're super hyped because this week is US Open week. We're back for another major championship, and this time we're going down to Torrey Pines, an absolutely iconic venue. We've got two milli makers this weekend, a 100K to first GPP that I'll be playing in, and also just a ton of nice single entry contests. So there's pretty much something for everybody out there. The best part about this week is the droves of casuals that will be playing. It's a major championship. A lot of people will be playing DFS that don't typically play golf DFS. So there's a lot of edge to be had out there. We're going to be doing the research. All of the hard work is going to be done here to help you guys get that edge. In this video, my goal is to help identify some of the guys that are being overlooked this week. Those are going to be my sleeper picks. And some of the guys that are being a little bit overhyped by the industry. Those are going to be my fades for the week. We're going to be using my data-based approach. And if you're new to the channel here on Gsluke DFS, I always use a data-driven approach to take on DFS. I cover the PGA, NFL, NBA, UFC, all DFS sports using a data-driven approach that I learned while in electrical engineering school. I use mathematical modeling, custom modeling. I make a lot of visualizations for you guys to help you guys with your DFS lineups. So if you're looking for any more additional content on DFS, some of my tools and whatnot, make sure to check out my channel. Without further ado, guys, let's hop into the fades and sleepers for this year's US Open. So first of all, before we hop into these fades, I just want to take a look at our last week's video and how we did. So first of all, with our fades, we did really well. We had Lucas Glover as a fade, also Rafa Cabrera-Bello as fades. Both ended up missing the cut, which is good to see there. Our only miss, I'd say, was Harris English. He did end up finishing in a tie for second place. The only saving grace, I'd say, is that we did have Terrell Hatton as our pick to win. He ended up outscoring Harris English on the DraftKings scoring. He was the optimal play at the top end of the board. So at least we had that going for us. If we take a look at our sleepers last week, they were also excellent. We had Ches Reavie, who ended up finishing in the top 20. Also Doc Redman, who finished top 20 as well, which is great, especially considering their price ranges last week. And if we take a look at our one miss, that was Sungjae Im. He's an extremely volatile golfer. He got off to a really rough start. Ended up turning it around by the end of the golf tournament, but didn't end up finishing very highly or anything like that. Now getting into the fades for this week. We're looking to rebound off last week and get all three, hopefully missing the cut. I don't like rooting against people, but for our DFS purposes, it'd be nice if they did. At number 3, we have Max Homa, a $7,300 golfer, expected to be owned in 12% plus of lineups. And to be honest with you, I think that's going to creep closer to the 15% marker. We've had a lot of steam growing behind Homa over the week, especially by some of the YouTubers and industry professionals. But Homa's a Southern California kid. He's essentially a home game for him. I think that's why you're getting a lot of that steam behind him. But he comes into the US Open as chalk, and I think you really should be wary here on him. He's somebody who got a breakthrough win at Riviera this year. A lot of people are using Riviera as a comp course. I am as well, actually. I think it's a great comparison course for Torrey Pines here. The only issue I have with Homa is the difference in the rough that we're going to see. At Riviera, the rough wasn't anything crazy. They let it grow 3-4 inches at times. Here at Torrey Pines, we're going to see 6 to 10 inch rough. That's just a completely different animal. Max Homa is not one of the bombers of the golf ball by any means. And if we take a look at his splits based in long rough versus normal rough, he starts to bleed strokes when the rough gets over 5-6 inches. And as a result, he's going to be a fade for me. I think he would be a play if he was in that 3 to 4% ownership range. Then he would definitely be worth taking a few shots on. But as he starts to creep into that chalk range, you're looking for guys that are a good fit for the golf course. And Max Homa just has a few characteristics that worry me a little bit. So that's why he's a fade for me at number 3. At number 2 for my fades, we have Shane Lowry, a $7,600 golfer who's expected to be owned in 16% of DraftKings lineups. He's also another DFS sweetheart. He's somebody who's been on a tear of late. He was top 10 in, I believe, 3 of his last 5 events, highlighted by a 4th place finish at Kiawah Island in the PGA Championship. He's got a lot of steam coming behind him because of those finishes. The one thing I'd like to say about Lowry is about a month ago, I was all over him. He was striping his irons. His ball striking was elite. It was top 5 in the field in almost every event he was playing in. It was the putter that was lagging behind, which for him was atypical. He's typically a short game specialist. But if we take a look at his statistics at Kiowa, he was completely carried by the flat stick. He gained 6 strokes putting at Kiowa. He bled strokes off the tee, was neutral on approach, which is not good to see. He was doing excellent for the last 2 months. And he also carried his game around the green. I don't like to see that from Lowry. He's somebody who is ball striking the ball, and I loved to see that when that was happening. But if he's starting to revert for his long-term form where he's not great with his irons, he's getting carried by that flat stick, I don't want anything to do with him. We're at a course with Poa Nua greens, with Kikuyu rough, which is very difficult. Nothing like he's used to seeing over in Ireland. I think he's going to struggle. I think he's going to miss the cut. He's a sprayer of the golf ball off the tee. And at 16% ownership, it makes him a very easy fade for me. The only reason he's not my number 1 fade, I'm very confident on this fade, it's just because my number 1 fade is a really, really big name. And with that being said, let's hop into that number 1 fade. And now, the sleeper pick that could absolutely kill me this week, but I'm very confident on it as well. We have Bryson DeChambeau, a $10,400 golfer who's expected to be owned at 16, I'd say maybe even 25% of lineups. And the reason why I say up to 25% of lineups, I have it projected at 16, is first of all, you always have a lot of steam behind those guys at the top end of the board. They usually end up coming owned a little bit more than usual. And the reason why I think it might even go higher than per se 20, maybe even 22%, is because of the casuals. You have a lot of guys playing DFS this week that don't play very often, that only play in the majors. And from what they remember from last year's US Open, they saw Bryson run away with it. You're going to have a lot of casuals that just play Bryson in every lineup. They think he's going to run away with it again. And to be honest with you, this golf course is not a good fit for Bryson DeChambeau. And let's talk about why it's not a great fit. So first of all, the fairways at Torrey Pines are going to be much easier to hit than those at Winged Foot. At Winged Foot, it was extremely firm and fast. A lot of the fairways were even elevated or down in a valley, which made them even harder to hit. And that's why Bryson got all of his advantage. If nobody's able to hit the fairways, it becomes who can hit the ball the farthest. At Winged Foot, his distance was just a huge advantage. He had less distance into the greens. He had the strength to hack the ball out of that rough and onto the greens, and you saw him run away with the win. Here at Torrey Pines, the guys that are accurate off the tee are going to be able to hold the fairways. They're saying that they're much more receptive than they were at Winged Foot, and he's going to lose that advantage that he had. You know, if these guys are still hitting fairways, they're getting that spin control, it may actually be a little bit counterproductive for Bryson to go out there and try to bomb and gouge. He said in his news conferences this week, that's exactly what he plans to do. I say all the power to him, but I do not think it's going to have the same effect at a course like Torrey Pines. And on top of that, the most jarring thing for Bryson this week is his Poa Nua splits. If we take a look at his normal putting statistics, he's top 5 on tour. He's gaining 0.6 strokes per round on the greens, which is excellent. But if we take a look at his statistics on the Poa Nua surface, he's losing 0.89 strokes per round. That's more than a 1.5 stroke difference. He clearly doesn't like the inconsistency of the Poa Nua surface. If you're new to the channel, Poa Nua grass is extremely inconsistent. It grows throughout the day, it buds, it gets longer, and it's extremely frustrating for golfers that are very precise. For golfers that rely on having that consistent roll, just like Bryson DeChambeau. And I expect that to cause problems. I expect the rough to not be as penal. And overall, he's a fade for me, especially at the 16% ownership number. Now that we got the fades out of the way, let's talk about some of my sleeper picks for the US Open. At number 3, we have Bubba Watson, a $7,400 golfer who's only being owned in 3% of lineups, essentially being unowned this week here on DraftKings. So Bubba's always a polarizing figure. You either love or you hate the guy. I'm one of the few people that stands in the middle on him. I love some of his antics, but I think he's a little bit of a drama queen at times. But he is coming off 2 bad performances, which seems to be scaring almost everyone off of Bubba Watson. I'm willing to buy back in on him because of Riviera being a good comp course. He's won twice at Riviera. We consider that to be a Bubba track. He also has a bunch of top 5s and top 10s at that golf course. It also has the Kikuyu surface. It's firm and fast. You have the Poa Nua putting greens as well. And as a result, I think Bubba Watson's going to have some good vibes here at the US Open. And on top of just having the good comparison course there, Bubba Watson's been an elite driver of the golf ball for the last 3 months. He's number 3 on tour in terms of total driving over the last 3 months for people that are qualified that have played at least 12 rounds. And he's doing it with the elite combination of distance and accuracy. He's been averaging over 320 yards per all his drives, and he's been routinely in the 70% plus in driving accuracy. This week at the Torrey Pines and the U.S. Open, that is going to be a huge advantage. You're obviously going to be able to hack the ball into the greens. You're not going to be hacking out of the rough very often. And for somebody that's only 3% owned, has good vibes in the area, has been a great driver of the golf ball, he's more than worth the few lineups you have to put on him to get over the field. So I like him as a sleeper pick, and that's why he comes in at number 3. At number 2 for our sleepers, we have Cameron Smith, the Aussie, coming in at $8,000, and also an extremely low ownership of just 3.5% this week. To me, that ownership number is disrespectful. It seems as if everyone's forgotten just how good a season that Cameron Smith is having. He has 5 top 10s in the year. He has more top 10s this year than he had in the rest of his career. He's also had some very impressive Sunday finishes. He obviously has the win at the Zurich Classic. And overall, I think his game fits this golf course pretty well. He's obviously not one of the better ball strikers on tour. He's somebody who's around neutral with his irons. He does lose strokes off the tee. But considering that he is a short game specialist, I think there's a slightly intriguing option to play him this week here in DFS. So if we take a look at his short game, he's gaining 0.6 strokes per round with his short game. That has him number 10 in the field in terms of his short game. He's also very good around the green, so you love to see that. But if you take a look at where Cameron Smith has shined, it's at really tough setups. So if we take a look at the match play, he did pretty good there. The Country Club of Austin was a tough setup. If you take a look at the Zurich Classic, that was a tough setup, especially considering the alternate shot format. He wasn't hitting every shot. You're never really able to get into a rhythm. So I like seeing that he did well there. He's done well at the Memorial in the past. He's done well at the Masters with the second place finish. Obviously a tough setup there. And overall, I think he should be more owned in the 10 to 15% range. If he was owned in that range, I would still be over the field on him. But considering he's at the 3.5% mark, I'm definitely going to be well over the field. I'll probably be in the 20 to 25% range. He provides tons of good leverage for you. You have Louis Oosthuizen just priced, $100 more. You have Corey Connors, $200 more. A lot of those guys are going to get a lot of ownership. And as a result, I think he makes for a good pivot play and also a very high upside play. He's somebody who wins golf tournaments when he's ball striking. He doesn't do it every golf tournament. He loses strokes off the tee a lot. But if he's able to come out and have, a better than normal week for his standards at the very least, I think he comes out and finishes in the top 10. And now finally, my number 1 sleeper this week. This sleeper was somebody I completely wrote off in my first DFS preview. I mentioned him, I believe, for about 3 seconds. I just mentioned the name, moved on, told him I wasn't playing him. That's Jordan Spieth at $10,900, who's only expected to be owned in about 9% of lineups, which is the lowest ownership number I can remember for quite some time, probably 4 or 5 months now, ever since he was on his rebound track. And he's not just simply a byproduct of ownership. I've really started to like Jordan Spieth over the week. So while many people don't want to play Jordan Spieth because of his driving accuracy, that's why I wrote him off in my DFS preview. I believe I said something along the lines of, he sprays the golf ball, he's never going to hit the fairway, he's just not going to get it done this week. The issue with that sentiment is that Jordan Spieth is great out of the rough. He's actually the number 1 player on tour out of the rough. And that's in terms of long rough that's longer than 4 inches. He's number 1 in terms of shots gained. That was completely jarring for me. I had no idea that he was that good out of rough. But when I take a look at his highlight reel and you go take a look at some of the rounds he's played this year, I've watched a lot of them on PGA Tour Live. They're right. Yeah, he's gone out of rough a lot of times out of the really deep rough very, very well. I think a lot of that has to do with his ability to judge the lies. There's a lot to be said. There's an art form for judging those lies. On the ones that are nestled down, knowing how it's going to come out. The balls that are sitting on top of the surface. Is it going to be a flyer? Am I going to catch it a groove or too high? I think he does that really well. And it makes sense to me. If you take a look at his short game, he chips in all the time. He hits those long putts. He really has a feel for the game. He has a feel for controlling the golf ball, putting it exactly where he wants to. And it just isn't surprising to me that he's able to control his ball out of the rough. He's a mastermind. He looks like a magician with the golf club in his hand. He's the magic wand or whatever. And for me, I really think he has winning upside this week. Some of the reports from at Torrey Pines have said that the rough isn't going to be as penal as some other years. And for Jordan Spieth, I think that only helps him, especially because he's going to be in the rough a little bit more than other people. And at 10% ownership, I'm definitely willing to go over the field. I'll be in the 30-35% range. I think he has the potential to win given this weekend. And especially just considering the ownership numbers as low as it is. We don't see it very often. He's normally one of the chalk options because people love playing Jordan Spieth. But for whatever reason, no one wants to play him this week. And I'm going to take my opportunity to do so. So that's my number one sleeper this week at the US Open. That's all I've got for the fades and sleepers, guys. I'm sure I'll get burned by at least one of the fades. I'm sure one of my sleepers is going to miss the cut. It happens every week. But let me know in the comments who you guys agree with and who you don't agree with. Maybe who your biggest sleeper pick is, your biggest fade is. Let's have a good conversation about it before the slate locks tonight. I always love hearing your guys' questions. It gives me a little bit more knowledge about it as well. And it's a win-win situation. If you guys enjoyed, please make sure to like the video and to subscribe as well. It helps me out a ton. It helps me with growing the channel. It also makes sure that you guys can see my content as soon as I post it in the future. Again, another win-win there. So good luck with you guys on your DFS lineups. Let's take home some money this week, and I'll see you guys next time.